This is a reading from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentary on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriyananda. Week 2. Did God create the universe or become it? Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it and your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The Gospel of St. John, chapter 1, contains a passage that explains the essential truth that creation is a process of becoming. The universe is not separate from God, the Creator, but a part of Him, even as our own dream creations during sleep are figments of our consciousness. God's is the life, God's the reality. Not a melody could be composed, nor a poem written, were the melody in the poem not already there, simply waiting to be expressed. In Him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Ego-directed desires is like static. It distorts the radioed messages of infinity. But the pristine impulse from the divine, undistorted by limitation and delusion, is the life that gives rise to all that is. As the 7th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita states, I am the fluidity of water. I am the silver light of the moon and the golden light of the sun. I am the Om, chanted in all the Vedas, the cosmic sound moving as if soundlessly through the ether. I am the manliness of men. I am the good, sweet smell of the moist earth. I am the luminescence of fire, the sustaining life of all living creatures. I am self-offering and those who would expand their little lives into cosmic life. O Arjuna, know me as the eternal seed of all creatures. In the perspective, I am their perception. In the great, I am their greatness. In the glorious, it is I who am their glory. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Now we'll continue with another reading, a beautiful reading from Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This prayer demand is, make me silent that I may eloquently converse with thee. Wandering through forests of incessant searching, I arrived at the mystery door which conceals thy presence. I knocked loudly on this door of silence with persistent blows of faith. At last the door opened and I beheld thee resting on thy altar of glorious visions. I stood with restless gaze, waiting for thee to speak. Thy creation-making voice was inaudible. At last a deep stillness stole upon me and taught me in whispers the language of angels. With the lisping voice of my newborn freedom, I tried to speak. Suddenly the lights in thy temple wrote brilliantly in letters of light. In my little chamber of quietness, I am ever at rest. I never speak now, but with a voice of silence. Through my silence, O divine lover, converse thou eloquently with me. So Yogananda has a way with words, doesn't he? Straight back to the core. So our topic today is, did God create the universe or did he become it? This is certainly a mighty question to answer, especially since we live in a culture that uses the mind to figure out everything. It's even harder for the mind to try and figure out these eternal verities. In life, we're always going through life looking for the answer, looking for that piece of information that would make it all come together. Oh, now I understand. Now I got it. But much learning does not teach understanding, especially when it comes to these deep questions about the mystery of life. We do not understand through the head, we understand through the heart. God created the universe and became it as well. So we're swimming in this ocean of divine grace, where everything is God and God is everything. Wherever we look, whatever we hear, whatever we touch is an expression of the divine communicating with us. We can approach God as the vastness of the universe. We can also find God in the smallest, tiniest experience in life. It is from the known that we can reach the unknown. Swami Kriyananda says it might be helpful to personify the infinite, to visualize the divine as love, as joy, not as an abstract form, but as a mother, as a father, as a friend. We can visualize him in any way that we relate to, because he is everything. He is beyond what we can visualize, and he is also the thoughts we have of him. So he will come to us in any way we seek him. So the question is, what is most precious in your own heart? What do you find in there? What is that connection for you? And if we can experience, we can always experience that sweet presence that is there constantly. If we can maintain a wakeful attitude. In the reading today, we see that creation is a journey of becoming, and that not a poem can be written nor a melody composed if it were not already there, waiting to be expressed, waiting for it to come through us in any way we might be able to express it. So everything we've ever sought and everything we continue to seek is right here. All we need is to sharpen our skills of attention, observation, and perception. Yogananda states that everything is God. This room and the whole universe I see as a motion picture floating in my consciousness. These are the words of Yogananda. I behold nothing anywhere but pure spirit. How can we expand into these great territories of light and being? Well, we start with the heart. We start by letting go of littleness. We let go of pettiness. We let go of smallness. We know it's unbecoming for our heart. It doesn't feel right. We let go of the meannesses of the heart, as Sri Yukteswar describes it. And if we say, well, if God created everything, then did he create those meannesses of the heart? Yes, he did. Created everything, light and dark, play together. The meannesses of the heart come through a different expression of the divine, an expression that doesn't make us feel good. Hence, we seek to expand, to uplift, to go beyond. God, the divine comes to us in many different disguises. It's up to us. We were given free will to choose this way or that way. We can choose light, we can choose darkness. We're always free to act. Now, we need to free the heart from self-involvement and self-interest in order to begin to see the big picture. When we free the heart then that heart is free to play, to act, to serve, to pray, without getting entangled in the mud of expectations and attachments. Yogananda says that when the wave melts into the ocean, it never again feels separate from the ocean. When we experience the divine, when we experience spirit, we never feel disconnected from God. We're always in that state of being. Our heart is full with that loving, divine ocean of God. When we hold on anything that is not part of our true self, we will be disturbed. Hence, our heart and our mind will no longer be at peace. And we find ourselves like strangers living in a strange land. Our true home is omnipresence. It's light, pure being, love, joy. Anything that we hold on that creates a barrier to that expression will keep us away from where we're trying to reach. We're all cut from the same cloth and sewn with the same thread and endowed with the exact same potential, all of us, all of creation, the potential to become sons of God. There's a story about Alexander the Great of Macedonia, the great emperor. He sent his Greek historians and soldiers out into India. He just arrived right off the shores of India, and he sent his soldiers out to survey the territories and bring back information to the commander. And the soldiers came back with an anecdote about a very interesting individual they met in the forest. His name was Ramdev, and he was a Brahmin sage that lived in the forest. And Alexander was very interested in these holy men of India. He didn't understand them, but he was kind of fascinated in a way that they lived so differently. So he decided to send his soldiers out to contact this Ramdev and command him to come and see the emperor. So off went the soldiers, and they gave Ramdev the invitation. The king of the world is inviting you, is commanding you to come to his presence. He would like to meet you. And Ramdev says, the only king I know is that who created heaven and earth. That's the only king I obey. That king is benevolent, while your king is a warmonger. And what kind of king is this Alexander if he is subject to the king of death? What can he offer me? I have everything Mother Earth supplies me with. I have no fear. I have no attachments. I live at peace at night. I sleep at peace at night. So go tell your commander, I'm not impressed and I shan't meet him. So off went the soldiers, and they informed the great Alexander how this forest dweller had turned down his request. So in front of his soldiers, Alexander said nothing, but to a confidant, he didn't want to be diminished in the face of his soldiers, but to his confidant, he said, how is it that I have conquered kingdoms and mighty armies, and a frail old forest dweller has bested me? We find that might and we find that power in meditation. When we enter the stillness and drink from the living waters of life, when we go back to the abode of the self and we contact our holiness, that is our true identity. Holiness is abiding in our true identity. To get there, you need to return to the source. You need to reconnect, to be in that state of wholeness. We go back to that God nature. And when you're there, nobody needs to describe that state. Nobody needs to tell you how to get to that state, to return to your point of origin. We know where we belong. But the connection has to be made. This is how we see the divine everywhere, by first contacting the divine within our own self. When we find that sweet connection within, we can pull that thread with us and be able to see it on the outside. Everything outside is but a reflection of our deep connection with the divine, or a reflection of that lack of connection. The great Indian sage and saint Ramakrishna used to see the face of the goddess Kali wherever he looked. He saw the goddess in everyone and in everything. And Mother Teresa of Calcutta, who used to tend to the ill and the lepers, all she saw was the face of Jesus looking back at her. When our feeling and our attitude are right, we always find that thread of goodness, that thread of hope, that thread of possibility. It's always there if we can maintain that wakeful attitude and that connection to that inner self. In this world of duality, everything is made of light and dark. They were created together and they journey together. So even if we turn on the light in a room, there's always a spot of darkness, maybe behind a piece of furniture. The darkness is still there. Maybe a fly on the wall. There's always a fly in the ointment, with the words of Yogananda. Nothing is ever perfect. And even in the darkest of nights, maybe even the dark night of the soul, there's always a glimmer of hope. It's our work to tune in to the goodness, to the hope, to what is possible, and to always stay positive and uplifted. As we are passing through on this life, in this life, we are just travelers collecting experiences. We're not here to build an empire, start a business, write the book. Maybe yes, but that's a side experience. The real experience is what you go through as you write the book or start the business. We are collecting these experiences for the edification of our soul. That's all that matters. That's all that counts. When Yogananda would be with his monks, he wouldn't talk much, but he had two important rules that he would tell them. Get in the spine, bring your focus to the spiritual eye. Because when we are in the abode of the self, this is where God and Guru can assist us. When we get quiet enough, when we get centered enough, the revelation, the answer, the guidance, and the blessing will rise from within. The kingdom of God is within. We first seek it in here in order to see it everywhere. There is a story about the goddess Kali. She was always doing penances and penances. And she was doing a penance next to a pond. And suddenly an alligator comes out of the blue, snatches a young boy and drags him into the pond. The boy screams and shouts for help. Kali stands up, stops her penances, and interacts with the alligator. Leave that boy, let that boy go, please. And the alligator says, why should I? I'm hungry. I need nourishment too. So she says, I'll give you anything, but let the boy go. Anything? Asks the alligator. She says, yes, anything. Give me all your penances and austerities. That way, I will get a wonderful boon from the gods. Now, Parvati had been doing these austerities and penances for lifetimes. And she said, I can always start over. We can never recover this young boy again. So she said, fine, you have them, take them. So as soon as she said that, she saw the alligator begin to shimmer with light and disappear. And so did the boy. So she thought nothing of it, went back to her penances, started over, and Lord Shiva appeared to her and said, Parvati, what are you doing? She says, well, I'm starting my penances, Lord. I gave all the ones that I had done before away, so I'm starting over. And Lord Shiva says, Parvati, you need not do penances anymore. It was I who came to you as the alligator and the boy. And I am pleased with you. You were more interested in the well-being of the child than in your own attachments. You had attachment to none of your penances. And we can see this is a nice little Hindu story in Hindu mythology, but really, we can also see it as what happens to us. What are the alligators in your life? What is coming to you in your relationships, in your situations, in your challenges? And who is that behind what you're going through? If we can see that, I'm sure we can navigate it with more grace and learn those soul lessons. When we seek the divine in our own being, we go back to our center. We find that center. And the more we can establish ourselves and relate to our center, the more we can see that center everywhere. This is how Yogananda spoke to audiences. Thousands of people packed auditoriums, and he gave talks. And each individual felt as if he had been spoken to individually. He spoke straight to their soul, from his soul to their soul. And it is only in that state where we feel we've been seen, we've been addressed. Each person finds that sense of completeness deep within. And that's what we're invited to do here also, to relate to the universe from our center. So we can see that divine aspect everywhere. Yogananda said that that's how he sees the world, glimmering ocean of light. And I'd like to end with some lyrics by Swami Kriyananda, wrote a beautiful song called Lord, When in Darkness. And it goes, Lord, when in darkness, Lord, in confusion, I'll always follow thee. If I grieve or lose my way, only thou canst comfort me. All I live for is to love thee, my beloved friend. Friend, how can we cultivate that friendship with the universe, with nature, with our challenges, with our neighbor, with ourselves? Finding that, we will find the divine, not only within, but everywhere. And now we'll have our offertory.